That is not essence functioning. Yeah.
I don't understand how hunger and fatigue can be coming from outside of us. And that seems that anything is coming from within, certainly within our bodies. So how do you, I don't understand that, I don't understand what you're identifying with. I mean, you're saying, oh, I'm a tired person, I don't want to be a tired person anymore.
Well, what I'm saying, well, my point, I'm not saying that the body shouldn't sleep when it needs to sleep,
right,
and you shouldn't eat when you need to eat. On the other hand, for instance, much dysfunction around eating has to do with, you know, people who have a physiological reaction of hunger and then mechanically eat to make that feeling go away. So yes, there is.
Or when hunger arises, there is a habit that hunger is filtered through an emotional complex which stimulates, say, overeating or undereating, denial or excessive eating. There's lots of ways that our psychological makeup creates cascading sets of habits that produce effects which become inscribed in the organism, you know, and it's as predictable as the sun rising in the morning, practically.
You're talking about something like Pavlovian conditioning?
Sure. I mean,
it is like Pavlovian conditioning, but it gets complicated because there you know,
they're very sophisticated bells that ring in our world, but we still bark and we still drool.
We still bark and drool, but it's usually it's a set of things that that are not even aware of at the surface level of consciousness. We're not seeing most of the levers that are, you know, it's like a Rube Goldberg kind of thing. You know, there's, you know, something pushes that lever and a ball drops, and then water falls and makes this go up, and we don't see any of that. We just see this impulse over here, and then this response way over here. And what we're suggesting is that this set of effects that are, in a sense, the process of unconscious internal composting, or, you know, what happens when you're not looking at this process, can be changed, but only when you see, as Stuart's pointing out, you see all the levers, you see all the actual effects, such that sometimes, and not infrequently, and we're used to this. You know, right now, I've had a lot of tea. Should I just, you know, relieve myself on the floor here? I don't think so.
Because you're the one who would have to clean it up.
Exactly. Damn right. So the same thing happens with hunger. Sometimes it's appropriate to eat, and sometimes it's not appropriate to eat, even when you feel hungry.
But let me just, before we go to your question, let me just take hunger as an example. There's being hungry and eating when it's appropriate, which is a body, and that can be a very natural process. But most of us, like when we're hungry, we get cranky, and that's where we start. That's where that hunger becomes yet another trigger for an identified state, and that's when the sensation, the body sensation, is simply a trigger or a reactive trigger.
Hunger is a very simple manifestation, and it does not have to have all the consequences. It might not be cranky, it might be anxious. Some people get anxious when they get hungry.
Well, we have a question over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you respond to the Zen koan, when hungry, eat, when tired, sleep?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're sort of responding to that in a roundabout way, which is that it's not if you're hungry and you eat, and if you're tired and you sleep, and that's all there is to it. That is a very natural relationship to your organism. But if you're hungry and someone's standing in the way of you getting food, and you start sitting there sort of tapping your foot in the ground and sort of starting to think dark thoughts about this person who's standing in line in front of you because and they're taking a long time at the cash register, and you can't get your Starbucks muffin or something, then something else is going on because we're identified with that state.
But then it's not in hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's how we respond. What we're talking about is not some sort of artificial denial of the natural process of the organism. We're talking about this whole segue is about trying to shed light on this notion of identification. And identification means when you take the body state that you're in as the sole totality of your experience and lose yourself in a reactive flow of associations triggered from that state, then you've lost the naturalness that Zen koan speaks of.
Right. That the reactive flow of thoughts and emotions is just what that is being pointed to in that statement. That instead of, oh, I'm hungry, so I'll go pick an apple from the tree and eat it. Instead, oh, I had a big breakfast this morning, so I should have something light for lunch, maybe low fat. And
this dish is too salty.
Yeah.
Take it back.
Right. All these things, all these thoughts, all these emotional reactions. That's what that's about. That's what it's pointing to.
But aren't there emotional states that lead to like anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
depression, that lead to compulsive eating?
Sure.
So it isn't hunger, it isn't a physical hunger in that way.
Right.
That you're
Well,
satisfied.
it might not be often, but then those are always, you can see those when you develop the habit of practice, the habit of witnessing. Then you can start to see the operation of those parts of the personality that are producing these bizarre products of a composting process that we're suggesting is not natural, as compared with the process which small children experience. So, for example, in a number of cases, we can observe a small child that is denied something that she or he wants, and they cry. And then 5 minutes later, it's over. It's done. It's on. And it's forgotten. Literally, just gone. If for a very young
Try
child.
the same thing with an adult,
Yeah.
and you get war.
Really? You get mobilization of forces.
Bring them on.
That's right. You get the political process. You get all kinds of stuff.
In the fourth way, the term that's used in the classic fourth way is keeping accounts. So if you look within yourself at factors in your psychological mechanism that keep accounts, remember people who have wronged you, remember grudges, hold on to that stuff. That's keeping accounts. And keeping accounts is one of the functions of the android, or the personality.
Right. The essence does not do that.
Right. The essence is
That's
like
the
the
assertion,
little. The essence is like the little kid. It's like
Right.
there's an immediate affirmative response to the reality of life, and then there's life changes, and there's a new response to life.
Now, it's also true that this property of or the properties of essence are not necessarily devoid of the ability to create negative karma. So even after we achieve the relative clarity of no longer compulsively having to identify with the operation of the personality or android, even after that is more or less stabilized in our presence, still the essence may need to learn stuff too. But the essence